I have a lot of crazy dating stories, but I've never actually dated someone who is crazy before. Like, legitimately does not have a grip on reality crazy. Yeah, never dated one of those. Until now. I was at the grocery store and this guy came up to me and started like chatting me up, and he was tall and attractive and obviously assertive, and could hold a conversation with a stranger, which is really impressive. And of course I'm there like feeling very flattered, like, oh my god, I'm getting asked out in person at a grocery store. Like, this only happens in the movies. And it was cute, it was nice. And so I agreed to go on a date with him and thought it was super normal. Fast forward to the date itself. Here are the top 5 ways you know that you're dating a crazy person. First of all, he tells me that he's a vegan, which, okay, because it will allow him to live forever. Then he tells me that he doesn't believe in Western medicine, which, okay, because he had a bad experience with his grandpa at the hospital. And when I asked him about that experience, he said his grandpa broke his femur and had to go into surgery and passed away during surgery. And I was like, well, how old was your grandpa? 90. And I was like, okay, look, I don't think that they put him through surgery at 90 without really considering all the consequences. I think they must have like needed to do that surgery to heal his femur. And my date says, oh, I know everybody tells me that it's crazy, but I swear if they had just like put him in a bed and just like given him the right diet, he would have healed. From a broken femur? So now I'm like catching on, all right? This guy is cray-cray. And so the third thing that he said that I knew he was crazy was he was talking about how he wanted to rise in power in the government so that he could remove our current government system and replace it with his own system, which basically sounded like a vigilante system because, quote, criminals roam among us, including those doctors. So even though he's not capable of holding down a job right now, yeah, turns out he recently got fired from his job delivering pizza. He thinks that he can be the leader of the free world and his government system is going to be better than everybody else for hundreds of years have figured out. Okay. Number 4, he starts talking about money and like capitalism is evil. And I'm like, I work for corporate America. And he was like, you know, capitalism is evil and money doesn't make you happy and like you just have to be happy, which like on principle I agree with. But then 30 seconds later, he's complaining about how LeBron James has millions of dollars and it's not fair. And I'm like, pause. Is it that money doesn't bring you happiness, or that you don't have money and you hate people who do? And the 5th way, oh, you're gonna love this. Oh my God. The 5th way that you know that you are dating a crazy person, he tells me that his brother is having a bachelor party out in Vegas, and because he's in between jobs right now, he's going to, wait for it, audition to be a male stripper. Oh my God. What do I say to that? First of all, TMI for a first date. Second of all, like, I was actually able to kind of navigate the conversation about you wanting to take over the government, but I actually have no idea what to say about the fact that you want to be a male stripper. And then he says, I auditioned once before. I'm sorry. What? He was like, yeah, like a couple of years ago, a friend of a friend of a friend heard that I was hurting for money. We're back to the money issue. Called me out of the blue and was like, why don't you audition to be a male stripper? So I went to downtown Minneapolis to a business and like stripped for him in an office, and it was so awkward and awful. And I was like, oh my God. I do not know how to respond to that at all. Like, I don't know. What do you say? And I guess the only thing I could think of to say was like, well, if you hated that experience, what makes you think that you're gonna like it in Vegas? And he goes, well, it'll be more artistic. What? Like, very loose grip on reality here, people. I'm like, if this dude goes to Vegas and thinks that he's just gonna like get up on stage and blow everybody away at amateur night, no, what's actually gonna happen, he's gonna be at like some seedy bar that's barely better than that office, and he's gonna hate it all over again. And how am I even on this train of thought? Why are these words coming out of my mouth about the guy that I'm on a date with? What? Oh my God. And I know that this is all funny, these like top 5 ways to know that you're dating a crazy person. And it was funny. I mean, it was mentally engaging, right? To try to follow the bouncing ball, follow his thought process, and try to like make connections that a normal person was not making. That was really mentally engaging. But emotionally, it was really scary. Like, there were moments that were genuinely scary. He just had a lot of like anger and bitterness and resentment about his life, and it was bare, like just under the surface, right? And it's coming at me across the table, and I'm looking at him thinking, if I say just the wrong thing, that emotion is going to go from like a general thing to being directed at me. And so I'm feeling there were moments when I was really scared. Also, his pupils were dilated, and I was looking at him and I was like, what are you on? Because clearly you're on something. And he said something about smoking weed, but I was like, that does not dilate your pupils like that, right? So I'm like, what do I do here? So I ended up, while he was in the restroom, I went to a male staff member at the restaurant and said, look, I'm on a blind date. This guy is really intense. We're about to leave. Can you make sure that I get to my car safe? He said, sure, no problem. This isn't my first rodeo, like, for sure. And sure enough, that happened. Like, the staff member, when we left, made sure that I got to my car safe. I made sure that my date left the parking lot first, and then I drove off to make sure he wasn't following me home. And the whole way home, I was like checking my rearview mirror to make sure that they weren't the same headlights, like he didn't like double back and follow me. And I just got home and I had like an existential crisis, because I was like, why me? Like, dear God, it was like shameful and awful and scary, and like, why me? Like, why, God? Why? What have I done to deserve this? And then I thought, okay, how can I reframe that? One thing that I learned from this experience is how to use the restaurant staff to help you out. So that's a tool that I didn't have before. And a friend of mine is a waitress, and she said, if this dude had been like 2% crazier and you wanted to vanish, you can actually ask the staff and they will sneak you out the back. And I had never thought about doing something like that before, which is a new tool that I have now. The second thing, I went from like, why me, to thinking about if one of my girlfriends was on that date instead. And I think that I managed him and that crazy pretty damn well, actually. But imagining one of my girlfriends in that situation, I don't think that they would have handled it the same way. Like, when he came back from the bathroom, he sat down next to me and put his arm around me. And I mean, this guy's like a bomb ready to explode. What do you do? And so I very carefully took his arm and gave it back to him. Very carefully. And he was like, oh, too soon? And I was like, yeah, bro, too soon. And I just think of like one of my other girlfriends sitting in that chair and just freezing up and just letting the arm be around her shoulders, because what the fuck else do you do? You know? So when I reframed it that way, I was like, I went from like, why me, to like, thank God it was me. Because I obviously was able to handle that. And then the third reframe and how I turn a bad date into a positive one is, God damn, do I have karma coming my way. Woo! I handle that shit so well. Like, no doubt. The next date that I go on, even if it is bland as vanilla, is going to be so much better than that date that I just went on, that I'm going to be like, oh my God, he's the one. I don't know. What else do you do? Like, how else? If you don't reframe things like that, if you don't look at a bad situation and find the good out of it, like, you'll never leave your house. So I have blocked his number. He is no longer able to contact me. And like, the moral of the story is, don't shop at Cub.